If you've ever tried to change a belief about yourself, your worth, your abilities, or what's possible for you, and felt like your brain kept pulling you back into old patterns, there's a scientific reason for that. Beliefs aren't just thoughts, they're neural predictions. And today, we're breaking down exactly how beliefs form, how they get stored, and how they can be changed using neuroscience. A belief is your brain's best guess about what's true, about you, about the world, and about what you can expect. Beliefs are built from past experiences, emotional memories, repeated thoughts, social conditioning, and the meaning your brain assigned to those moments. Once a belief forms, your brain treats it like a prediction model. It uses that belief to filter information, guide behavior, and keep you safe. This is why beliefs feel so real. Your brain is literally using them to navigate reality. Beliefs are created and maintained by a network of brain regions that work together behind the scenes. Your prefrontal cortex handles reasoning and evaluation, helping you interpret what's happening. Your amygdala adds emotional weight, acting like an internal alarm system that decides what feels safe or threatening. The hippocampus stores memories and the meaning attached to them, giving your beliefs their personal history. And the default mode network ties everything together by generating the internal stories you repeat to yourself. When these regions sync up, they form the blueprint of what you believe to be true about yourself, your abilities, and your place in the world. These regions form a network that decides what you pay attention to, what you ignore, what feels familiar, and what feels threatening. Beliefs are not stored in one place. They're stored in patterns of activation across this network. Your brain is designed to protect your existing beliefs, even the painful ones. Why? Because familiar beliefs feel predictable, and predictable feels safe. When you try to adopt a new belief, your brain asks, is this familiar? Is this consistent with my past? Is this safe to update? If the answer is no, you may feel resistance, self doubt, cognitive dissonance, emotional discomfort, or a pullback to old patterns. This isn't failure, it's your brain trying to maintain stability. Belief change happens through neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself. Neuroplasticity is activated by repetition, emotional intensity, novelty, attention, and safety. When you introduce a new belief, your brain begins forming new neural pathways. But those pathways are weak at first, like soft trails in a forest. The more you activate them, the stronger they become. This is why belief change is a process, not a moment. Your brain doesn't update beliefs because you want it to. It updates beliefs because it finds evidence. But here's the key. The evidence doesn't have to be big. One moment of calm, one moment of follow through, one moment of self kindness, one moment of choosing differently. Each moment becomes a vote for the new belief. Over time, these micro moments accumulate, and your brain begins to say, this might be who we are now. The reticular activating system is the brain's filtering system. It decides what information reaches your conscious awareness. When you introduce a new belief, even a small, identity adjacent one, your RAS begins scanning for evidence that supports it. For example, if you say, I'm learning to trust myself, your RAS looks for moments of follow through. If you say, I'm becoming someone who sets boundaries, your RAS notices even tiny moments of self advocacy. This is how affirmations work when they're done correctly, not by forcing positivity, but by directing your attention toward evidence that supports your new identity. Belief change doesn't happen through pressure. It happens through gentle repetition, emotional safety, and small moments of alignment with who you're becoming. Start with micro beliefs, small, believable statements that don't trigger resistance. Then look for micro evidence, tiny moments that support the new belief. Over time, your brain updates its prediction model, and the belief that once felt impossible becomes familiar, then natural, then automatic. Let me give you a simple example of how this process works in real life. Imagine someone who carried a long held belief that they weren't the kind of person who followed through. It wasn't dramatic, just a quiet, familiar narrative that shaped how they approached goals, relationships, and even small daily tasks. Every time they tried to change, their brain pulled them back into old patterns because that belief felt predictable and predictable felt safe. So instead of trying to force a new identity, they started with a micro shift. They chose a small, believable statement. I'm becoming someone who follows through on one small thing each day. That statement didn't trigger resistance. It felt close enough to their current identity that the brain didn't reject it. Then they looked for micro evidence. One email sent, one glass of water, one task completed, one moment of choosing the next right step. Each tiny action became a vote for the new belief. Within a few weeks, their reticular activating system started scanning for more moments of follow through. They began noticing small wins they used to overlook. Their brain slowly updated its prediction model, not because of pressure, but because it found consistent evidence that a new identity might be emerging. And eventually the belief shifted from, I never follow through, to, I'm someone who follows through on the things that matter. Not through force, through repetition, safety, and micro evidence. Here's another example of how belief change happens in the brain. This time around, self-worth. Imagine someone who carried a quiet, persistent belief that they weren't enough, not because anyone said those exact words, but because years of subtle experiences, being overlooked, overworking to feel valued, or shrinking themselves to avoid conflict, taught their brain that their worth depended on performance. Over time, that belief became familiar, and familiar felt safe. When they tried to adopt a new belief like, I am worthy, their brain rejected it immediately. It felt too far away from their lived experience. So instead of forcing a big leap, they started with a micro belief. I'm learning to see my worth, even in small ways. That statement didn't trigger resistance. It felt gentle, believable, and close enough to their current identity that the brain didn't flag it as a threat. Then they began looking for micro evidence, one moment of saying no without apologizing, one moment of resting without guilt, one moment of acknowledging something they did well, one moment of letting themselves take up a little more space. Each moment was tiny, but each one was a vote for a new belief. Within a few weeks, their reticular activating system started noticing more signs of self-worth they used to overlook. A compliment that actually landed, a boundary that held, a decision made from self-respect instead of fear. Their brain slowly updated its prediction model, not because they repeated a positive phrase, but because they consistently gathered small, safe evidence that a different identity might be possible. And eventually the belief shifted from, I'm not enough, to, I'm someone who is learning to value myself. And with time, that became, I am worthy, not through pressure, through safety, repetition, and micro evidence. So as you can see, belief change isn't about forcing yourself into a new identity. It's about understanding how your brain works, creating safety, and giving yourself small, consistent experiences that make a new version of you feel possible. And if this breakdown helped you understand your mind in a clearer, more compassionate way, I'd love for you to stay connected here. This channel is all about giving you science backed tools for identity shifts, belief rewiring, and nervous system safe transformation. If you found this helpful, take a moment to like this video. It genuinely helps this content reach more people who need it. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe before you go. There's so much more we're going to explore together.